To make one truck battery, you're going to have to move 8 million pounds of earth for one battery.
My name is Mike Mauceli, and this is the Energy Show with REI Energy, where we're energizing your investments and maximizing your tax deductions. Today, we're going to be talking about Kamala's energy ideas. Joe Biden has dropped out of the election, and today you will discover how Kamala Harris's energy policies compared to Donald Trump's. My guest today is Ron Stein. Ron is the author of Clean Energy Exploitations. Well, Ron, thank you for coming on the show today.
It's my pleasure, Mike.
God, we got a lot of stuff going on here, right? I mean, the elections kind of turned topsy-turvy, or the other candidate almost got assassinated, and now we are getting a person in the White House, or is going to run for president, actually, Kamala Harris, and I think she's farther right than Joe Biden was.
Much further right, yes.
So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about her energy policies and kind of what the world's going to look like if she happens to get elected. I mean, what is that going to do for the energy industry?
Well, I think it all starts with she's totally oblivious to the word energy because she is of the mindset that wind and solar energy is going to replace fossil fuels. But wind and solar does something totally different than crude oil. Wind and solar only generates electricity, and she doesn't know that. And crude oil, on the other hand, crude oil is never used to generate electricity. Coal is, natural gas is, but oil isn't. Oil is useless. It's black tar, unless you can beat it and heat it and crack and all the crazy things they do in a refinery. And then we get the oil derivatives, and through human ingenuity, we now have 6,000 products in our daily lives that didn't exist 200 years ago. And it's interesting. She's oblivious to the fact that big oil, as she calls it, only exists because of humanity's addiction to the products and the fuels made from oil. And renewables, they only exist to generate occasional electricity because they can make nothing for society. Wind turbines can't make asphalt, they can't make tires, and everything that needs electricity is made from oil. You know, we got 6 ways to generate electricity. You have to remember the light bulb came after oil because the light bulb was made from oil. And the 6 ways to generate electricity, you got wind, solar, nuclear, hydro, coal, natural gas. All 6 ways of generating electricity cannot exist without oil because all the components, the computers, the wires, the insulation, the air conditioning, everything that makes that is made from the components of oil, which she wants to put out of business. And, you know, I'm here in California, and she's from California. And in California, the oil embargo, some of your viewers might have been around then in 73. And in 73, California was a big producer of oil. And between the production in California and production in Alaska, that accounted for like 95% of the demands of the state. And at that time, California was 5% dependent on crude oil. So when the oil embargo hit, that devastated the economy. People were lined up for hours getting gasoline. And that was in 73. Well, because of California's success of reducing oil production, we have been reducing oil production year after year after year after year. Today, our oil production is to the point we're now relying on foreign oil for 60% of our needs. Now, Mike, you got to remember, we're the 4th largest economy in the world. California is a huge state. In fact,
And California used to be one of the top oil producing states in the United States.
Right. And now California, we got 145 airports. Most are small, 9 of which are international airports. 41 are military airports. We have 3 of the largest shipping terminals in the entire country, all being run by foreign oil. California has become a national security risk for the entire country. And Kamala is proud of that. She supports it all the way. And she wants the rest of the country to follow California. Duh. So it's It's just amazing that, she doesn't realize that everything that needs electricity is made from oil. The iPhones, the iPads, this communication we're having here stops when, the iPhones and telemetry is not available. And, she doesn't realize we had a zero emission society back in the 1800s. There was no oil, there was no coal power plants, there was no power plants at all. But, people didn't live past 40 years of age and never traveled 100 miles from where they were born. And so, yeah, she is, like I say, she does not understand the word energy because wind and solar do something totally different than oil. And without oil, you eliminate oil, you eliminate electricity, you eliminate EVs. The EV is 100% made with oil from the tires and the insulation, the upholstery. I mean, it's an oil car, just happen to be run by a battery. And the battery is really electric because all the mining required to make a battery is humongous. And that mining equipment is made from oil, using oil for fuel. And, a Tesla battery weighs 1,000 pounds. The exotic minerals and metals to make one Tesla battery, you got to move 500,000 pounds of earth to get the various lithium, cobalts, and manganese, and all the different metals. 500,000 pounds of earth. And our illustrious Governor Newsom, he wants to electrify the big trucking industry.
Yeah.
Well, the 18-wheelers, their battery is going to be 16,000 pounds. To make one truck battery, you're going to have to move 8 million pounds of earth for one battery. It is incomprehensible.
And you don't hear all the environmentalists jumping up and down about, tearing up all the earth and mining all those rare minerals, do you?
No, because it's over there, And that's when I wrote that book, Clean Energy Exploitations, it brings transparency, the fact that all the exotic minerals and metals to go green are coming from developing countries.
Yeah.
They have no environmental controls, no labor controls. And after writing the book, I take the position I would never buy an EV. And people ask me why. I say, well, for ethical and moral reasons. They say, what the hell do you mean by that? I say, I know where the lithium and cobalt is coming from, and I'm not willing to financially support that. And it's interesting, our government's providing subsidies, incentives to buy EVs and to build wind and build solar. They're basically encouraging China and Africa continue exploiting the people who have yellow, brown, and black skin. Continue the environmental degradation on your land. We're going green. You remember Greta Thunberg? When Greta Thunberg mentioned there, how dare you? What she really meant was, how dare me continue demanding the products that are coming from oil that are making my life more comfortable. Instead of the need to overregulate the suppliers of fossil fuels, no need to overregulate them. All you got to do is stop using the products. Nobody uses oil. But if you stop using the products, oil goes away.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I don't want to go back to the 1800s. I mean, obviously,
I'm with you, man.
but what I've noticed about a lot of these elitists is that they want to continue flying their jets and continue doing the things and enjoying all these luxuries that are available, but they want all the poor people or all the middle class, working class to live like you did in the 1800s, so they can, fly around the world and be the crusaders of the world.
Exactly. And you're right, Mike, because all these big international, climate conferences, they're always held near large airports that can accommodate a lot of private jets. They're not going to do it in the middle of India,
Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take Kamala to get around the world on her solar-powered yacht.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, you go back to Biden. He's flying around on a 400-ton airplane, 100% made with oil products, powered by aviation fuel, and he's screaming in a microphone, "We're going to get rid of oil."
Yeah.
Mike, the only good thing about getting rid of oil is the ground Air Force One.
That's true, and all the support planes that go with it.
Unbelievable. I mean, today we got 50,000, we've grown from 1 to 8 billion people in less than 200 years, not because of oil, because of the products we get from oil. I was interviewed recently on a New York TV station, and the first question to me was, "Hey, Ron, we understand you're pro oil." I said, "Wait a minute, I'm not pro oil. I'm pro the products we get from oil.
That's right.
That has made us." And if we've been trying for 200 years to clone oil and been unable to do it, but without oil, we're back to ground zero. The caveman. It's
Yeah.
crazy
No,
world.
it is. And places like California, of course, they're okay with, shipping oil in from Ecuador and South America and using a big tanker that burns diesel to get it over here and then turn around and, go over all those environmentally sensitive reefs and stuff just to get the product here so they could say that they're using less oil.
Well, these tankers they use a low grade fuel, and the emissions from tankers for the oil imported to California, the tanker emissions is greater than the entire mobile fleet of California. But that's okay because Newsom only breathes California air.
Yeah.
Anything outside of California, he doesn't breathe that. And
Well, I know
so,
it's an election year because I guess he was on TV last night saying that he's going to clean up all the homeless camps, and I don't know where he's going to put them. I don't know what it's going to cost to move them all, but whenever there's an
well, he's
election year, of course, none of these people remember what they said in the previous years, right?
well, he wants to solve the homeless problem. I got a total easy solution to the homeless problem. Get rid of oil. If you get rid of oil, because all the tents and sleeping bags are made from oil.
Well, Kamala, she doesn't only want to get rid of oil, though. She's against plastic straws and everything else. She wants to ban plastic. And I don't know about you, but I've used a paper straw in the past and I don't really like it.
Well, she wants to get rid of plastic. Go to a hospital. The thing that's really missing from all this political BS that's going on, there's a lack of conversations. I
Yeah.
mean, when Joe was in with Kamala, I would love to get rid of oil, but what's your backup plan? Do 200 years ago, we didn't have hospitals, we didn't have airports, we didn't have the 50,000 merchant ships, we didn't have the 20,000 commercial jets, we didn't have the 50,000 military jets. Do you really want to close all the hospitals? Do you really want to close all the airports? Because what's the backup plan? Because wind and solar can only generate electricity. And if you get rid of oil, you won't even be able to build wind turbines and solar panels. So it's like I say, there's just a lack of conversations. And that's the thing that is, all the articles I've written, the 3 books I've written, I'm just trying to stimulate conversations at the dinner table. Now, energy can get very complicated, and I totally avoid graphs and charts and formulas because that scares the hell out of most people. Just common sense.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm 100% in favor of getting rid of oil if there's a backup plan. But to ask me to jump out of an airplane without a parachute, I said, wait a minute, time out, time out. And by the way, the
Well, it's
parachute's made from oil.
Well, it seems like that's what they've done with these electric cars, right? They've gone out and they've built all these electric cars, but yet they don't have the ability to charge them, and so they kind of went in it backwards. I would think you'd build out the infrastructure to charge them first before you go build a bunch of cars that people have to sit at a service station for 4 or 5 hours just to get one of them charged.
Well, I'm of the mindset that the EV industry is on a death spiral.
Yeah.
Mike, the elites have bought them. The elites will continue to buy them. But Mike, we're running out of elites. Now we're getting down to the common folk. When you take a look at it, the gasoline consumption worldwide hit a peak in 2019 before the pandemic. Since the pandemic in 2019, there's now 30 million EVs in the entire world. And there's also today hundreds of millions of people that aren't going to work. as often because they're working virtually. And so with 30 million EVs on the road and hundreds of millions of people not driving as much, oil hit another peak. I mean, gasoline consumption hit another peak last year. Primarily because the EVs are second vehicles. They're low mileage cars.
Yeah.
They're not driven. If people want a workhorse, they get their gasoline car. I got to tell you a funny story. I've always had a four-door sedan, and I've had a Mercedes four-door sedan, and had 100,000 miles on it. And I said, well, I had something on my bucket list. I just jumped into it. I went into the two-door convertible, 450 SL convertible. Nice car. The trunk, my golf clubs fit in the trunk, but it's a small car. It's hard to get into. It's hard to get out of. And I said, geez, I qualify as an EV owner because EV owners, highly educated, high income, multi-car family, low mileage requirements. And so I went online knowing I would not buy one. Anyhow, I went online and I looked at the four-door sedan, 350 model, and a four-door sedan in a E version, and it stickered out $110,000. I said, holy crap. So I looked at the same four-door sedan in the gas version. It was 50,000 less. And so me being an engineer said, okay, if I keep my SL convertible for 3 years with the mileage I'm getting, the cost of California fuel, over a 3-year period, I would spend $5,000. So I was talking to my trainer. I said, Tony, do I really want to spend an extra 50,000 so I could save 5,000? You know what he said? Ron, you
Was.
bought an EV, I'm going to kick your butt.
Yeah.
I did not buy an EV. Will
Well,
not
that,
buy an EV.
yeah, I haven't either, and I don't really want one because I don't know what I would do with it if I owned it. Like I said, I have a ranch property I go to on the weekends, and the last thing I want to do is go around out there and chances of my EV getting stuck or something like that, and and then not being
You know
able to
the
charge it, right?
you know
Or
the
try not
challenge
being
with
able to
the
pull a trailer.
well, that's towing a generator.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's true.
The,
You could have a generator in the back.
the tough part about the EV chargers is they're subsidized to build them, but there's no subsidies to maintain them. So once they're built, not most, a bunch of them are not working. In fact, the current survey is almost half the people that have EVs would not buy another one. So, and Ford, they're losing their butts, and they're
Yeah.
reducing production of EVs and increasing production of the Ford 150s. I think it
Yeah, in
makes
fact,
money
I
for them.
read somewhere last week that you can get a heck of a discount on an electric car right now.
Oh yeah, I have a Mercedes. I wound up buying an S-Class Mercedes, but I got an email from the dealer and said they had a sale going on at EVs. You know how many EVs they had on the lot? They had 400 EVs on the lot. I've got a lot of neighbors that have EVs, and they never move. They go shopping, and that's it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and that doesn't even really speak to the fact that, if someone like Kamala comes in and all of a sudden you're going to do away with hydrocarbons, and I mean, what is that going to do to the workforce, to the people that she claims that she, is all the union back, all the people that are in the union that work in the auto industry, and I don't know how many employees are in the oil and gas industry, but probably about 400,000 or 500,000. I mean, what is it going to do to all of those people? Isn't that just going to put more strain on the government because you're going to have all these out of work uh, union people?
Well, I think, her policies, like I say, she's a little bit more right than Biden, but that's a real threat to billions of people on this earth because, yeah, we got 8 billion people on the earth, but when you take a look at it, it's only the wealthy countries that are going green. The US, Germany, the UK, Australia, but 80% of the world, that's a big number, Mike. That's more than 6 billion people. They're living on less than $10 a day.
Yeah.
They haven't enjoyed the Industrial Revolution. They probably never will, at this rate, because the wealthy countries can afford to subsidize it. Like I say, Biden is great at printing money. We print money, we subsidize all this stuff because private industry would never build wind turbines. They would never build solar panels because they don't work most of the time.
Yeah.
But when they're subsidized, hey, we got free money, and they just are going gangbusters. So yeah, it's the how do you keep these 8 billion people alive and well, and instead of subsidizing wind and solar, I think we could use some of that money to help developing countries come out of the poverty that they're in. I mean, it's atrocious.
I worked with a group, I don't know, it was 15, 20 years ago, and they had they were buying all this farm equipment to ship to Africa. And because they wanted to, help a lot of people come out of poverty and show them how to grow crops and stuff. But what they didn't realize was that, they bought all the equipment and they shipped it over there, but they had no one that knew how to repair any of it. Right. I mean, so it just sat there and rusted because people didn't know how to operate it. It's just like all of these government policies that they have, they want to just throw money at something, but there was no people to operate them or no people to train people how to operate them. There was no mechanics to work on them, so they just sat there and rotted. I mean, I mean, you had all this shiny new equipment shipped there and it just sat there for years and years and nothing was done with it. And that seems to be a lot what's happened with a lot of this green energy stuff. People aren't wanting to go into that industry now because obviously people are finally figuring out that it's not working. And
Yeah,
so
I
in
try
the
and I
end, you're
try
just
and
going to have a bunch of this equipment sitting out there doing nothing.
I try and correct people when they talk about green energy. You're really talking about green electricity because wind and solar can't make anything. And I got to tell you a funny story because I know some of the people that work at the Unocal refinery. It's now the Phillips refinery in Los Angeles. And when Kamala was the attorney general, she had arranged to get a guided tour of the Phillips refinery in Wilmington, which is the LA refinery. And she shows up with this entourage of vehicles and she meets the construction manager at the gate. And first question she asks is that a smokestack over there? And he says, Miss Harris, we don't have smokestacks in the refinery. We have, flares because, refining crude oil is it's a dangerous process.
Right.
And if something goes haywire, if there's a power outage, we have to relieve the system of all that. And we basically divert to a flare and we burn it off. And she didn't accept that. It was a safety device. And she says, I'm not going on any property with a smokestack. Turn around left. Fleet of vehicles left. So, like I said, she's just of the mindset that, you know, big oil is bad. But, I don't know. There are emissions, CO2 emissions.
Mhm.
CO2 emissions have increased from a low point. Our astronauts, they get CO2 like 2,000 parts per million. Our CO2 is around 400 parts per million. But CO2 has allowed agricultural to grow more product, more food. She wants to reduce CO2, get it down to the point that CO2 gets down to like 160 parts per million. All life doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah, her
don't think these people
policies.
really understand that though. They just seem to,
No,
CO2 is bad, right? And, we need to get rid of it. And like you said, if you get rid of it, I mean, that's what obviously causes all the forest to grow and all the, plants that we eat and stuff like that. So,
right. And then we got all these merchant ships and jets to move products from country to country, and it's just amazing. But her policies could basically eliminate a couple billion people,
yeah.
from starvation and malnutrition and weather-related fatalities. But you know, she she wants to get rid of oil so badly because it's a big oil, it's a emission generator. But she has no replacement. She has no backup plan.
Yeah. And what's going to happen to the price once of course, I know her stance in the past is that she wants to ban hydraulic fracturing, obviously, which is, of course, what we do and a lot of other companies do, as far as in these shale plays, that's where most of our production is coming from today. And, we're actually producing more oil right now than we have in history. And, we haven't even been really allowed to drill on some of the government property and stuff like that. So you can imagine, how
Well, yeah,
much oil and gas we can produce.
we see all
And,
that in California. There's
yeah.
a lot of oil offshore that you can slant drill to get to. You don't do any offshore drilling.
Oh, yeah.
Can't do it. Yeah, no production. So it's crazy. And
Yeah, I work with several geologists that have some really nice projects out in California, and I've wanted to do one of them because it looks really low risk, but you're just afraid to go out there, obviously. And we tried to drill a well. I think it was up in Southern California a while back, and it took us almost a year and cost us $1 million, and we still got turned down for the permit to cross a dry
but
creek bed.
but the thing with Kamala is her solutions of getting rid of oil is building more wind and solar. It requires oil.
Yeah,
So her solution to getting rid of oil, her solutions are oil based. Like I said, she won't participate in the conversation. That's I wrote an article once about some of the questions should be asked during the presidential debates because especially geared toward Biden, he has no backup plan.
yeah.
He's
She
doing
doesn't
everything
either.
possible. No. And yeah, it's going to be devastating. I know because we keep closing power plants. California has the highest cost of electricity in the country. We import more electricity than any other state in the country. And yeah, we're just going into la la land. But like I say, Biden only breathes California air. If it's in the borders, it's clean air. If it's you basically the term I use in my articles, we leak emissions to other countries. It's okay to mine it over there and make it over there because we don't breathe their emissions. It's
How do you expect Kamala to campaign on energy?
she's going to be basically getting rid of oil. I mean that's her campaign. I mean she's like I say, first thing she's going to do is ban fracking everywhere, and oil production is going to go down. But demands of society, as you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, you don't want to change your lifestyle. We have the demands of humanity keep increasing, and you got data centers coming on board, artificial intelligence coming on board. They can't run on occasional electricity from wind and solar. They need reliable electricity, and they're all made from the products that come out of oil. So yeah, she's in La La Land, and I don't know
Yeah.
where. Like I say, she's going to obviously avoid the conversation as much as she can, like most politicians. Right now, being in California, between Newsom and Biden and now Newsom and Kamala, they got me working overtime. Every time they open their mouth, I got right another article.
Well, you're going to have a lot to write between now and November, I think.
Unbelievable, man. Going to burn up a lot of pencils.
I'll tell you what, I've never seen campaigns that can run on increasing taxes, doing away with oil and gas, doing away with electric stoves, doing away with refrigerators, and, people actually out there want to vote for them. But there seems like there's some people out there that do. They buy into it.
You've heard the term the unfunded pension liabilities.
Yeah.
Like people on Social Security, they retire and then they live another 50 or 60 years, collect Social Security, or they retire from a company and collect, their retirement for 50 or 60 years. I've said I can solve that problem instantaneously. They said, how do you do that? I said, get rid of oil. So what's that going to do? So, well, no one's going to live past 40.
Yeah. And yet you have countries like China and India. I mean, they're not signing into all this Paris Climate Accord. I mean, they're perfectly willing to sell these crazy Americans all of this technology that doesn't work, if they want to buy it.
Yeah,
But
China,
you don't see
they're
them running out there and, doing away with coal plants.
China's building a coal-powered power plant equivalent to about one a week.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And, in the United States, we haven't built the refinery. We've expanded existing refineries, but we haven't built a new one in the United States in like 50 years. You know how many China and Asia is planning on building?
How many?
Over 80,
Yeah.
more than 80. They'll be supplying our needs because, like you say, we're not going to change our lifestyle. We'll just import all the products from them. And if we don't have the oil here, well, the oil goes over there and we'll just get the end product from them. So it's, like I say, it's going to be extremely tough on the financially challenged. Like I say, Germany was the first country to go green. Now they got the highest cost of electricity in the world.
Yeah.
We're right behind them.
Yeah,
And, for the financially challenged, it's tough.
our electric costs here in the United States gone up about 30%. I mean, just for all these regulations and all these green energy subsidies that, are supposed to give us, unlimited free energy, and yet it's driving our electric bills up every year.
It's supposed to be free electricity, but it's only intermittent electricity. And it doesn't work because if it's intermittent, you need a backup, which is coal, natural gas, and nuclear. So you're really just building a redundant electrical generating system that occasionally will work if the wind's
Yeah.
blowing and the sun's shining. And yeah,
But it
someone's got
still
to pay for
doesn't
that.
supply enough electricity, even if it is out there working.
No, no. But I would love to have conversations. And I'm really disappointed that the press doesn't ask embarrassing questions to
Yeah.
these policymakers because they're the ones that are setting the tone. And like I say, I'm 100% in favor of getting rid of oil if you got a backup, because we're a materialistic society. And, the developing countries like China and India and, parts of Brazil, they would like to be a materialistic society, but, living on $10 a day ain't going to happen.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate that you have a lot, the Democrats have done a really good job as far as infiltrating the media and controlling the conversation and basically, telling a lot of people, what they want to hear. And so I have to hand them credit for that. They've done a good job doing that, but I hope people are going to wise up this year and, really take a look at what could happen out there if some of these crazy policies get enacted,
I,
on
I,
this next administration.
I jokingly say that, being in California, Governor Newsom has done a phenomenal job. 2 second pause of killing the California economy.
Yeah.
He couldn't do a better job.
I know we've got a lot of people from California moved to Texas, so.
Oh yes, I know. It's that's why the freeways are all messed up. Too many people
Yeah.
leaving.
Well,
But
anyway,
yeah,
Ron, it was great to
Kamala's
have you on today. And I'd certainly I always enjoyed talking to you and love to have you back in the future.
fantastic. Like I say, just encourage conversations. What's the backup plan? Because, like I say, we're a materialistic society, and without hospitals, without airports, without computers, iPhones, remember everything that needs electricity is made from oil.
It's definitely, I agree with you. So anyway, tell our listeners how to follow you.
Just Google me, Ronald Stein, energy
Okay.
consultant. Like I say, I've got a newsletter goes out every Monday and gets reposted around the world to 500,000 people. So, yeah, just Google me and Ronald Stein, and connect to me, and we'll do what we can to get them on our list and encourage conversations.
All right, Ron. Thanks again.
Okay, Mike, you have a great day.
You too.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.